So, moving into phase 5, and we don't have obviously a schedule of phase 5 yet, but with the way that Kevin Feige ended the conference
Yeah.
or ended Comic-Con was he'd mentioned Blade already,
Right.
the big announcement of Mahershala Ali playing Blade. But he also mentioned, hey, we didn't have time to talk about Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Spider-Man 3, Fantastic Four, and Mutants.
Fantastic Four, I believe, is going to be prioritized over Mutants, and Mutants, I believe, is just a placeholder name temporarily until they get a real one.
Yes.
But
So I actually am okay with the word with just mutants because it puts a little space between the X-Men and
it should,
mutants. So
especially if Black Phoenix blowing as much as it did. They don't want
I
to touch
still
that.
haven't seen that
I'm
movie.
not. I told you, if I pirate it, I might spend the time to do it. Like today, tomorrow I go back to work. I'm not going to spend my last day watching that movie. That's how
Right.
much of a or little of a priority that thing is.
Right. So going through phase 5, and obviously we have no idea the order yet. We do have the date for the movies coming out in 2020, and I'll have to pull those up.
Okay.
But we do have three movies. Sorry, not 2020, 2022. We do have the dates already. They've already
Okay.
confirmed the dates, so we are getting three. And I'll make sure I have that list and everything put up. But that will be because we thought that was going to be in phase 4. But again, Kevin Feige doesn't want to plan too far in advance and announce all that and commit to it
Right.
as things change.
Right.
Which is why we have such a short phase 4. So phase 5, Blade. We'd already mentioned a little bit about this, but I have to say I'm very excited about Blade. I love the original movies. I hope they're rated R because it will be in its own category with Blade, Deadpool. You know, what other rated R Marvel people that we can do? Like it could be its own like section.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. And then obviously Black Panther 2, which
I still stand beside Namor the Submariner being the villain in that one, and those two competing with their hidden nations that they've always had. Even though Wakanda has come out, I don't think the other one has, and I think it's going to be a controversy between the two. And I still think Namor is going to be the villain in that one. I'm calling it now.
well, I'm also excited to see all these movies that take place on Earth after Endgame. How are all of these Phase 4 and Phase 5? How are these people affected by the blip, the 5 year gap? What was Wakanda? Who was running Wakanda? Because
M'Baku.
T'Challa wasn't there, and his
M'Baku.
sister wasn't there, and his
M'Baku.
mom wasn't there. Yes, M'Baku was running Wakanda, probably with Okoye. And so I'm curious on that dynamic. He spent 5 years ruling this country that he actually fought for in the first Black Panther. So what's the dynamic with his real king coming back? So I think it's gonna be a theme through all of Phase 4 and Phase 5 about how did this 5 year gap change things, change people, change the world, everything. So I think the one of the movies that are gonna be the biggest change is Black Panther 2. And I'm curious to see how the country is run now that he's back.
Well,
How much challenge is he going to have? Well, we didn't do this the last 5 years. Why do you want to do this now? Like,
I think Black Panther 2 is going to be another box office hit on there. And I honestly, like I said, say the Submariner or whatever his name is going to be the villain. I think it's going to be a solid movie through and through. Again, with the Phase 5 not knowing too much details about any of the movies themselves, we're up in the wind. I honestly believe that in one of these movies, you're going to have Adam Warlock, probably in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You're going to be able to introduce him. I also think since we're going to get the Eternals movie a lot sooner than Phase 5, we're going to have Eternals being part of these movies as well. And since most of it's in space, that's Eternals' domain. So, I mean, we're looking at Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Captain Marvel 2. Three of those, I think one of them's going to get a Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, Eternals. I think I'm not saying they're the villains, but I'm saying they're going to have to introduce these since they don't have their own movie yet, and a lot of people don't know anything besides, like, if you hear Silver Surfer, you think shitty Fantastic Four. So they're going to have to rebrand that on top of it, and I don't think they're going to do the Fantastic Four movie with the Silver Surfer because that's already been done. So they're going to do a completely separate Fantastic Four, and I'm really looking forward to that because it is the first family.
yeah. So jumping back, you'd mentioned a lot there. Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Mm-hmm.
We already know Adam Warlock was teased. We already know that they're searching for Adam Warlock. I've heard anything from Zac Efron to Keanu Reeves, but they haven't officially announced anything yet. That probably we won't hear anything about that for a while. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3, also the way the Endgame ended, are we going to see a little bit of Thor hanging out with them, or is that just going to be something that we hear about but we never actually see? And again, Gamora being the version of 2014 that was still working for her dad, Thanos, and not having to go through that friendships with all of them and her redemption path. And now Nebula is basically the good sister, and she's kind of the one that's run off. So Guardians has a lot to unpack too, and they've already done the script. I know the script is done. They're tweaking it, I'm sure, but James Gunn has to finish Suicide Squad first.
Your Thor thing is going to be corrected on its own, because remember, the Thor Love and Thunder is coming out well before that movie. So that's
we don't know how well before, because that's at the end. That's literally the last movie. That's in November of 2021.
They're not going to follow a Thor movie up with Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor that was left with them in it. They're going to pace it just a little bit behind it. So I'm thinking they're going to start it off with more than likely a Black Panther 2, and then follow it up with a Guardians of the Galaxy, and then a Spider-Man, and then a Captain Marvel.
Black Panther 2 in February 2022.
Yeah.
And then Guardians starting off the summer in May of 2022.
But
that's what I was.
Thor Love and Thunder is going to be... It's going to have the Guardians in it as cameos, because that's where Thor fucking is.
Yeah,
and so he's going to start there, and it's just they're going to leave his drunk ass on a planet or something like that. And when they leave, they're going to ditch him.
You get off my ship.
They're going to ditch him. And when they ditch his ass, that's when it's going to be kind of like this whole process or something like that. I don't think, because you know Guardians isn't going to be with him the entire time. It's a Thor movie.
Yeah.
So I honestly think they're going to just ditch his ass.
Yeah. Now, we've already talked about in our Spider-Man review, we've already talked about kind of what they, Spider-Man 3 and everything. We know we're going to see that in Phase 4. Not Phase 4, Phase 5. So we have to wrap up what the hell is Peter Parker doing? Like, when is it going to take place? So we've already talked about that a lot in the Spider-Man review trailer, so you guys can go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. But I don't have too much more to add to Spider-Man 3 than what we.
They got to do it fairly quick, due to his age and how much you kind of grow with your face and stuff. They can correct that, I know.
So young.
Yeah,
he's a baby face. He could look young for a while.
Yeah, but if you're talking, this is 2022. We're looking 2.5 years from now. He's going to age a little bit in that 2.5 years, when this is supposed to pick up immediately after Far From Home. So I honestly think they're going to get started on that pretty quickly. How are you gonna not do it immediately after when they?
You don't know. They might have their own plans and agendas, but we know we're getting it, obviously.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four. That was the other thing you mentioned. We've had two incarnations of Fantastic Four, and this will be the third time we see Fantastic Four. Now, it's the same thing with Spider-Man. We saw Spider-Man twice before we finally got it, and we got such a. I loved our Spider-Man. But they changed a lot from the fact that we didn't get the Uncle Ben story. Like, I think you're right. I don't think we're going to get Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four movie. But I'm really curious from how are they going to do it, because Fantastic Four is the first family. Like, they're the more originals. And so to have them come in and not be the first family, and to have them be the newbies, I don't really like that. I like the idea of them being from one of the other multiverses.
There you go. I was going to say, it's going to be from another multiverse where they failed. It's going to be they failed to save the day on that end, and they realized they because their universe went to shit, they're coming over to the closest one to be able to stop it. It could be incursions. It could be the incursions that they come over for to be able to kind of help with. And do you know the incursion story at all? Or what? All right, it could be the incursions that they come over and they're like, shit, because it's basically parallel universes. Something gets knocked out of whack where two Earths start coming together. And if they actually hit...
Well, I have heard of that, yes.
If they hit, both universes are destroyed. If one of them dies, then the one that lives continues to live, and that's it. But that was a dilemma. Doctor Strange fucked up Captain America in that. Captain America's like, we can't sacrifice another world to save our own. And then Doctor Strange was like, and made him forget everything. fucked up Captain America, made him forget everything, and then the Illuminati grabbed all the stones and were like, we're gonna try it with the stones, and they blast the thing, and the stones shatter, all of them but one. The time one goes into goes into the future, I believe, and all of them are gone. The stones are gone at that point in time, and they're like, what the hell? But they have to choose to either let both of them hit and both universes be completely annihilated, or kill everybody on one planet and destroy a world equal to their own. So I would love for the Fantastic Four. I would love for the Fantastic Four to actually come over to this Earth and be like, look, we're like, maybe that's too many cameos for them to come to Earth and fight. I'm not right. That's not an Avengers movie. But if they come to Earth saying this shit's about to go down, we're gonna help, and they do everything they can to be able to prevent it, or maybe it's a completely separate Earth and their Earth, so we don't have any relevance to anything here. And when they do that and they actually destroy it or something like that, or both obliterated, they could actually then be ported into ours. Because there's many different things they can do, but they're not going to go the Silver Surfer route. I honestly believe they got to do something with incursions. They got to at some point in time. That would be so sick.
We do agree, multiverse is going to be what they bring in, because they need to be more established. Been doing what they've been doing, like the first family.
Question:
So,
is the Mutants so far scheduled to come out after Spider-Man 3?
So we don't know that for sure yet. Phase 5, he just mentioned, he was like, hey, we didn't even get to mention and Mutant.
Okay.
And so we have no schedule yet for Phase 5. We just know that these are movies that he specifically wants to work on in Phase 5, but we don't know when.
Okay.
Now, I will say the Fox Disney movie New Mutants with Arya Stark in it, which is a horror movie, which it actually is going to be released this year. I forgot the exact date on it, but that's Fox's movie that they made. I don't know if Disney's made any changes to it, or it's going to be another Dark Phoenix where just release it, whatever, and we'll fix it.
Right.
But no, Mutants, again, I'm really, really excited to see what they do with the mutants, how they incorporate it. Is it going to be like based out of our world? Is it going to be based on another world? How do you love the Avengers and you're okay with them having superpowers, but people fear mutants? Is it because mutants are born that way and you can't become a mutant? You can either have an accident like the Hulk or even Spider-Man, or use technology, like a science experience, or technology is basically how most of our heroes have been now.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to fear the mutants, because mutants have always been feared. It's part of their core story. And fearing the mutants would be maybe because it's a genetic thing. You can't become a mutant. You either are or you aren't. It's evolution. So maybe that's why people fear them. I'm really excited because I've always loved the X-Men movies. And I'm really excited.
All of them?
I enjoy watching. I haven't seen Dark Phoenix, remember. I enjoy watching the X-Men movies because I love the content so much. Obviously, I have issues with certain things in certain movies, but for the most part, I enjoy the X-Men movies, yes. And I'm excited to see it come. I'm excited to see it level up. I'm excited to see what Kevin Feige does with it.
Okay. And Kevin Feige you trust. Gotcha.
Yes. How can you not after 11 years?
Well, he's got a little bit of backing and some great minds around him.
All right, so that's kind of what we're expecting for Phase 5. Obviously, no dates yet, not too many details. Most of these are sequels. They're going to mix in other streaming services or streaming shows. They'll mix in new movies that we don't know about yet. So there'll be a mixture of that. Again, I'm assuming it's probably going to be 2 years, maybe 3 at the most. He's not going to go over 3 years announcing from now on.
Right.
Is that your kitty? At least for a little while?
Yeah. Cat sitting. Good old Clark. Say hi, Clark. Leave me alone. Just cuddle me. Yeah, absolutely loves me.
That's what we're expecting with Phase 5.